Hi, and welcome to CPQ and Correct Forecasting training. Today, we're going to be going over a training in 4 parts, and I want to go over some of the learning objectives that you should walk away with. First of all, give them multiple quotes that when the customer is needing to see them, you'll be able to correctly identify and judge when cloning is needed. Second, when given multiple quotes, you'll be able to evaluate an existing quote and clone it 100% correctly all of the time. Third, given that there won't be help from sales ops, you'll be able to mark the primary button on the correct quote and forecast with 100% accuracy. 4, when asked from leadership about your quote, you'll be able to calculate and critically understand the numbers to precisely communicate the information. And finally, if your deal structure changes, you should know how to accurately clone the quote and recheck its primary. Let's go ahead and get started. This training is broken into 4 sections: an overview, when to clone, how to clone and change to primary, and number 4, forecasting correctly. I'm in a test quote already, and as you can see, I want to go over a little bit about the quote. You should already be familiar with quotes, as you have hopefully watched the other previous trainings already available to you in Degreed. If you have not, please go ahead and connect and do that. In the meantime, you can continue on with this if you've already watched that one. So section 1, let's do an overview. We're gonna go over the quoting process and just go over a little bit about cloning and what your quotes should look like. I'm gonna start out by going to the opportunity. Please go ahead and follow along by finding an open opportunity yourself. If you don't have a quote that's already created, please go ahead and create a test quote. Again, you should already know how to do this from a previous training that you've watched. That's already on Degreed, called CPQ Overview. So, but if not, you can create a test quote right now so we can practice. So here's the quotes. We're going to go to the primary quote, or just a test quote that Nicole has made. And in this section, we're going to be going over the 3 times that you need to clone a quote. First, it's when to change the price when you need to resubmit. Second, it's when you have an opt-in or opt-out option. And second, it's when to quickly clone after a mistake was made on the first submission. As you can see, this is an existing quote in draft mode. It has not been marked as primary. So a couple things to point out, just so you're familiar, is you have your quote detail section, which are basically all fields that you need to be filling out yourself, as well as the main important button that we're talking about here, the primary button. So this is things like the opportunity. It's linked to the account, the signer, MSA, the opportunity type, the status of the quote, so whether it's submitted, already in draft form, approved, who it's going to in the approval chain, the quote owner, which should always be you if you are submitting, as well as the invoice contact. Second is the address information section. This is also be inputted by you. This is the discount information, which is calculated based on the pricing and products you have, as well as the revenue pillars, which are also calculated based on the pricing and products you have. Finally, the approval information box is what you also put in. Payment schedule, net terms, other deal terms, use limited to, deal structure, and notes to sales ops. Those 6 fields are fields that you need to fill out before submitting. Okay, say you have a quote that's already been approved, but now the customer wants to change the price. Instead of starting over from scratch, you need to clone already and clone this quote with related. So say this is already approved, you want to go ahead and hit clone with related. Clone. And the purpose of this is so you can make the adjusted changes while not having to start over. It'll also bring over all of the revenue pillars if there have been updated revenue pillars, which is really important on a quote and one of the key reasons that you clone instead of starting over. So this is the cloned quote. It's brand new. As you can see, it pulled over all of the information already. And all we need to do now is move on to section 2, which is showing you how to actually edit the quote. So say we just created this so we can discount it more. Go to edit lines. Please be following along while I'm doing this in your own quote. And we're going to add products, and we're going to click on the bundle and hit select. We're going to remove any products you need or add any products you need. Again, we're doing this because you're cloning to quote to a quote to change the price or the scope. So we're going to select the main core product, some PS, and we're going to save. Going to save and close. It's going to make me put in the subscription category, so make sure you do that. Put in the quantity of all of the things that you're buying. Put in the notes and any other information. Let's see. And we're going to save and close it. Great. Now, if you want to forecast this correctly, because now you've changed the price, which you need to make sure you do, you need to triple click on the primer button and hit save. Next scenario where you need to clone a quote is if you have an opt-in or an opt-out option. That's when a customer wants to have the option to opt in or opt out after a certain period of time. In this case, scroll down and you can see that the term is 24, and that's the subscription term, right? So say the customer wanted to do a 3-year opt-out. So they wanted to add on a 3rd year, but they don't want to commit to the 3rd year. In that case, you'd want to have 2 quotes, one that's the customer facing and one that's internal to book guaranteed revenue. So in this case, you would need to have the guaranteed revenue quote that's set as primary, while the customer facing quote is set as a non-primary quote or non-forecasted. So say this was the quote for the 2 years. Now the customer says, I want 3 years, but I only want the opt-out option. You would need to clone with related. And again, you will always have 2 quotes if you do an opt-in or an opt-out option. One will be forecasted as primary, which is the guaranteed revenue or what they're definitely booked for. And then the second option is what they will not be booked for. So as you can see, you cloned. This is no longer checked as primary because it unselects this when you clone, which is great because we don't want to forecast this one. We want to keep the first one, the 2-year quote, being forecasted. Go ahead and edit lines. We're going to change the term to be 3 years because this is what the customer is wanting to sign. Okay, and then we're going to hit save and close. So now that you've saved and closed, this is the quote that you're going to be submitting for approval. Again, it should not be marked as primary. The third scenario where you should be cloning is to resubmit quickly after a mistake was made. So say you submitted and it's been approved, but now you need to add you need to increase the discount by $5,000 or add $5,000 or something. That's can't be done on the approved quote because it's already been approved. You need to resubmit for approval. That means you can easily clone with related, make that pricing change, mark as primary, and then resubmit. Okay, now think about your own opt-out or opt-in option in your head and go to that open opportunity. Remember, you should always have two options for each opt-in and opt-out, okay? And you should always have one quote marked as primary. Now I want to do a little activity where I want you to go back and find a proposal, which is the old system we used to work on, and find a proposal on an old opportunity. This one doesn't have it because it's a newer opportunity, but find one of your old ones and try and change an existing approved quote or a proposal. You can't do it because it's already been approved. You would have to start all the way from scratch. The beauty about cloning is that you don't have to start from scratch. You can simply go into one of your existing quotes, whether it be draft, approved, whatever status it's in, and clone with related, and mark that new quote as primary. It's really important, though, that you keep the timing in mind. You need to make sure that you only mark quotes as primary when the timing is right. So now that we've gone over how to clone, let's make sure that you know how to mark as primary and when to change that. So first, go to the forecasting opportunity report, and if you do not see your opportunity on that forecast report, it means that you don't have a quote marked as primary. That's a problem because leadership may be asking, where's your deal? When is this going to close? How much revenue is it for? So that's why you need to be really vigilant about marking this quote as primary and making sure it's the right one. Let's go over a little bit how to know if it's the right one or not. So say you're wanting to check this quote and make sure it's correct before you recheck it as primary. Go down to the revenue pillars and just check out the price. We have the net amount over here of $30,000. It's all appearing as new logo. Now, from previous trainings and all of your other trainings, you should know what all of these revenue pillars mean. If you don't, then don't worry about it. There are trainings available. Reach out to your sales enablement leader for that. However, this is a great way to check and make sure that the net amount is being divided in the proper revenue pillars. Although you cannot change these fields, sales ops can change them, but you do need to recognize which dollar amounts go to which field. So for example, if this is a new customer, all of it needs to be forecasted as new logo, which is correct. If it's an existing customer, you would need to have renewal dollars in here because it needs to be forecasted as renewal so as to not mess up your forecast and show that it's new business being won when in reality it's actually renewal dollars that we're not gaining any more dollars. So same with expansion and upsell. If you're expanding or upselling an existing client, those dollar amounts need to be broken out on top of what the renewal amount is. And you need to be familiar with those numbers, as well as the year one totals and all of the totals. This quote is only 12 months, which is why it's only showing up in year one. This is the way that you need to verify and check and make sure that your amounts are accurate and showing up in the forecast report accurately. If they are, go to the top, mark as primary, and hit save. Finally, let's talk a little bit about how to speak to these and speak to leadership. So first of all, let's recap a little bit. You clone quotes in three basic scenarios. When you need to change the price or scope after an approved quote has gone through, an opt-out or opt-in situation when you need to make two quotes, and when you need to make a mistake and you need to quickly resubmit. In addition to that, you need to make sure that you know how to speak to these amounts and revenue pillars and mark the primary quote at the correct time, which means don't mark a quote primary before you've changed the price or made the appropriate edits to it, or else it's going to be appearing in the forecast report incorrectly. To do this, like we just went over, go ahead and check the revenue pillars down here at the bottom. Make sure they match the net amount. We've also gone over what the old process looked like. It was very inefficient and it was very hard because you always had to make new quotes or new proposals from scratch each time you made a change. With the quoting system in CPQ, it's really easy. because when you clone, it pulls over all of the information over with you. Again, finally, remember to check the forecast report regularly and make sure that all of these amounts down here are being pulled through as you expect them to, as well as making sure the correct quote is marked as primary. Remember, you can only have one quote marked as primary at a time. Finally, please take a moment to fill out this form that I will be sending, CPQ Forecast Training, which will really help us get a lot of feedback. And remember, you can always watch this training and rewatch it at any time on Degreed or YouTube if you have any questions that you want to follow up on, in addition to reaching out to the sales ops team. Thanks so much.